Anyone who reads manga has heard of the terms shonen and shoujo, and anyone who has spent a good amount of time in the anime and manga community has heard some version of the phrase manga demographics don't matter. So let's talk about that. In today's video, we're going to talk about what manga demographics are, the issues that come with manga demographics, and answer the question, do demographics matter? I do want to start off this video by saying that this video really focuses on kind of the gender binary, so male versus female, and that really comes from that's how manga demographics are set up. It doesn't really focus on kind of how these manga demographics affect people who are non-binary or gender non-conforming. So that part of manga demographics is a whole other thing. So we are just going to be talking about kind of the gender binary, and I would love to talk to more people who are maybe gender non-conforming, who have thoughts on kind of how manga demographics affect them. So what are manga demographics? Manga demographics, in the simplest of terms, is who the manga is targeted towards, like the age group. There are four main manga demographics. You have shonen, which is for teen boys aged 12 to 18, shoujo, which is for teen girls ages 12 to 18, and then you also have seinen for adult men and josei for adult women. There are a few other things in there for like children and that sort of thing, but these are the four that most people talk about, and these are the four main ones. In Western publishing, we have this sort of thing, or at least in American publishing, we have things like adult fiction, new adult, young adult, children's, etc. It's not exactly a one-to-one comparison, but we do have demographics for English books. It's the same idea. It's who the story is intended for. Demographics are not genres. You may see people talk about like the shoujo genre or the shonen genre, but they are not genres. They are who the manga is targeted towards. It's a marketing thing. Basically, who do the publishers want to buy this story? I have been guilty in the past of like referring to a manga as like in the shoujo genre. By saying something is shoujo, you're really only talking about like kind of who the publisher wants to buy that story, and not really the contents of the story. Now, by saying shoujo, you can kind of make assumptions about what maybe the story has, but those are generalizations, and you're really not going to know until you actually read the story. You can put the demographic with a genre, so you can have shoujo fantasy or seinen mystery or like shonen action. So in Japan, manga is published initially in magazines for the most part. I have a whole video on manga magazines, so you can go check out that to learn more about that. It is much easier to market a magazine towards a larger group of people rather than a niche group of people. So stories in these magazines are grouped by who they're directed towards, which is where we get kind of like shonen magazines and shoujo magazines, that sort of thing. Some magazines focus on specific genres, and other magazines have things that are mixed up. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It may be that the author has a relationship with that magazine already, and so they're gonna write a different type of story than what's already in there. For example, Betsukami has mostly high school romance, slice of life types of stories, but it also has Queen's Quality in it, which is a action fantasy story. But the mangaka Kyosuke Motomi has had a previous relationship with Betsukami, and their other series have run in the magazine, so that's why kind of Queen's Quality is the outlier in there, because this mangaka has a relationship with the magazine already. Graphics do have general themes to them. So in shonen, you'll find a high volume of kind of like hero stories where the world is saved by the power of friendship. And in josei, you'll find a lot of workplace romance. It works the same as TV shows. You know, a lot of television shows for adults are gonna have some sort of workplace or office setting in it, where they're gonna deal with, you know, adult problems. And kids TV shows generally tend to be more imaginative, maybe have a bit more of a saving the world type of thing to kind of foster imagination and creative thinking in children. If you have consumed any type of media, you are familiar with demographics. They don't have like special names or whatever, and they're not a lot of emphasis is put on them, but you know when something is intended for adults and when something is intended for children. So knowing what magazine something is published in can tell you a lot about what kind of story is going to be in there. So let's talk about the problem with manga demographics. There are stories that are published in manga magazines that don't necessarily fit the mold of the demographic that magazine is supposed to be in. And this is kind of where the arguments come from. We have these generalizations about certain demographics, and then when we have a story that doesn't quite fit that generalization, then everything gets screwed up. Like we have Orange. This is a time-traveling high school story about changing your fate with a heavy amount of romance. You'd think a story like this is shoujo, and a lot of people do think it's shoujo, but it is a seinen. Or even Kageki Shoujo. This is a story about two girls entering into an all-female theater troupe, working together, achieving their dreams in this kind of like female-centered area. But it was originally published in a seinen magazine and then moved to a shoujo magazine. So what is it? Is it seinen because that's what it originally was published as? Or is it shoujo because it fits kind of the general themes of shoujo manga, and you know, it's in a shoujo magazine now? Personally, I think it's a shoujo. You know, we have this kind of like crossover happening in Western publishers now too. Shoujo Beat, an imprint of Viz Media, has been publishing shoujo manga exclusively since its inception. Since the day the magazine was created, it has published nothing but shoujo manga. It's literally in their Twitter bio, publishing the best shoujo manga straight from Japan. Recently, they announced they were going to be publishing a series called Romantic Killer. This is a high school video game isekai romance type of story. Romantic Killer is a shonen manga, and it was published in Jump Plus. Though Jump Plus has manga that is directed towards a female audience and an adult audience, and Shoujo Beat will tell you that, you know, there are other like shoujo manga that have been published in Jump Plus, so it really doesn't matter. Many people still consider manga published in Jump Plus shonen, unless maybe it has some sort of history as being previously a shoujo. The only example that Shoujo Beat will give us is, you know, the sequel to Hanayori Dango was published in Jump Plus, but Hanayori Dango is like very historically like the shoujo manga. It's very iconic. You cannot make any mistakes that anything Hanayori Dango is not a shoujo, so it's not really the best example. So with all of this crossover happening, it really begs the question, do manga demographics matter? I'm gonna start out by saying that this is an issue that I feel like only Western manga fans are having. Manga is a part of life in Japan. It's just another form of media there, and I think every Japanese person has at least read one manga in their life. It's not new or special or really niche or anything. It's just another form of media. Western fans really obsess over the concept of demographics and whether a series is shoujo or shonen or whatever. There are really heated arguments about this, and honestly, sometimes it's really nasty. It's a really big topic right now. Let's kind of talk about it. I do want to say that personally, I am on the fence kind of about this. Like, part of me wants to say that no, manga demographics don't matter, and everyone should just read what they want to read and like what they want to like, and we shouldn't talk about demographics at all because not even manga magazines know what's happening with them anymore, really. Love of Kill, right? It's a shoujo or a josei, right? But it's published in a shonen magazine. But that shonen magazine is a shonen magazine directed towards girls. So it's a shoujo magazine, right? And then of course we have our previously mentioned Romantic Killer issue also. So it seems like it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But if we ignore manga demographics, then we are ignoring the elephant in the room, shoujo and josei manga, the women's manga. The demographics question really only comes up when we're talking about shoujo or josei manga. No one really cares that Queen's Quality is an incredibly rich action fantasy that has great world building characters and tackles the issue of mental health with great nuance and care. They don't care because it's shoujo. They just talk about how Berserk is peak fiction and everyone should read Berserk no matter how old they are, and why don't you have Berserk in your top 10? What is wrong with you? Or they talk about how you don't have to have well-written female characters in shonen manga because it's not for the female audience. Demographics 100% matter when we're talking about shoujo and josei manga and when we're talking about female characters. Manga marketed towards women and girls is not seen as equal to manga marketed towards men and boys. It's just a fact. Let's not even talk about how much shoujo manga is being licensed in the US for English release, much less how much is printed in English. Right now, you can read the entirety of Shonen Jump in English for a very small price. But when you want to read shoujo manga, the series are cherry-picked from different magazines. We might only get 1 or 2 manga from different magazines, and they're just completely ignoring the most popular series. Like Honey Lemon Soda has been one of the most popular shoujo mangas for years, and there's still not even an anime adaptation of it. There's been a live-action movie, but there hasn't been an anime adaptation, and there hasn't even been an opportunity for it to be licensed in English yet. And now we have Shoujobi, our one place that we can go to find shoujo manga is publishing in print a manga that is largely considered a shonen. We've only had 2 new print releases for Shoujobi recently, and one of them is largely considered a shonen. Since between 2021 and 2022, we've had 6 new releases from Shoujobi, one of those being technically a shonen, and we've had a lot of series ending at the same time. Out of the top 10 best-selling manga from this year, only one of them has not been licensed in English, and I'll give you a guess as to which one it is. It's not that one is better than the other. You have just as much shitty shonen as you have shitty shoujo, and just as much amazing thought-provoking josei as you do seinen manga. It's a balance, and we are not seeing this balance happening. We're not seeing it in publishing, we are not seeing it in anime adaptations, and we are not even seeing it in the way that we talk about manga. Any write-off manga just because it's a shoujo, or they have debates on which female character is the worst, and they don't even try to explore the demographic. Just this week, we saw people shitting on people who like shoujo manga because they think we don't read it and we're just in it for the aesthetics. That's a whole other topic, but half of my collection looks exactly the same because Shoujobi only publishes it with white spine, red text. I can't tell half of my manga apart from afar. There is so much value in shoujo and josei manga. Shoujo and josei manga is where women and girls go to see themselves because they're not getting it from shonen manga. I mean, just the discussion of having which is the worst written female character in shonen manga tells us that we need someplace to go to find well-written female characters, and you're gonna find that in abundance in shoujo and josei manga. Also gonna find a higher concentration of female mangaka. Of course, you have your female creators who have made amazing shonen and seinen series, but many mangaka don't even get that chance. Often they're not even given the chance to write stories like that or have them published. You see so many more female characters, well-written female characters show up in josei and shoujo manga. And these female characters aren't shoved off the sidelines to be just the love interest for the main character who really doesn't have that much interest in love anyway. Not all shoujo and josei is romance, but when we do have romance, it is some of the best romance ever. It's fulfilling and it resonates with women because it is written for them. You still have like your spicy stuff, but it's not written for the male gaze. It's not stuff like panty shots and nosebleeds and impossible boob physics. It feels real and it feels like something that I would want. Even with fantasy series like Yona or Shirayuki or Queen's Quality, you see women who are often the main characters standing on equal levels with their male counterparts. Yona isn't as physically strong as Hawk, but she holds her own and has an incredible story arc and growth. The point is that if you get rid of manga demographics, then you are getting rid of a space where women and girls can go to find stories easily that they feel represented in. Demographics, they don't matter because you can always go and find a story that resonates with you no matter what magazine it's published in or no matter who it's for. Demographics absolutely matter to women. Until shoujo and josei manga get the same treatment as shonen and seinen manga across the board, then we can get rid of demographic. Until then, I am going to keep on talking about shoujo manga and keep on trying to talk about how great shoujo manga is and how many amazing stories there are in here because it does not get the respect that it deserves. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this topic are. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more manga goodness from me. That's all I've got for you guys today. I'm Christy Lou. Till next time, mata ne!